Hello, I'm Colin Green and you are listening to Spike Pit. RPG a day marches on through August, and in this episode I answer a couple of tricky questions that got me scratching my head. Also a couple of delightful calls from fellow podcasters, buddies of mine, expressing a desire to inspire and find out about what's been going on. So stay tuned, all that coming up next. Question 10. When did you start games mastering? I tell you what, I don't know about anybody else, but if you've been playing for, well, over 40 years, some of these questions are none too easy to answer. First time I DM'd or GM'd, whatever you want to call it, I have got a pretty clear memory of having like a D&D party when I was a kid, and I think the first dungeon that I ran was actually at that party. I remember, and I can see it in my mind's eye, I remember drawing this map on this like really awful lined paper that was thin, and most of the map, it was like I had a couple of maps, but the first map was on this lined paper, and it was like the journey to the dungeon, and it was laughable really. It was like most of the paper was taken up of a big forest, and through the middle was like a path, pretty much straight through the middle, and then there was a little like picture of the destination, and from memory that was it. I mean, I don't know why I felt the need to draw that, because it was a bit of a non-event. I mean, it's just like path through a wood to a dungeon, job done. But it got a little bit better from there. I remember one of the rooms, the room, I can remember now, the first room, there was like a red sand, and I can't remember if I revealed that the idea was that the red sand was like blood stained, and if you brushed the sand aside, there was this crunching floor. And the floor was crunching because it was like all bones. So you had like a layer of innumerable bones covered with blood-stained sand. I mean, all right, I was young. You don't expect me to be super original, do you? I mean, it was my first dungeon, and as the players came in, they could hear. So there were some big doors, I seem to recall some big doors, and a chanting in the distance, and basically it was like some kind of chaos temple, and they were dodging these robed cultists, and I can't remember what my influences were. It was not super original, and I don't think I did a particularly good job of running it. However, the cool part about it was we was all like more or less dressed up as our characters, and at about halfway through we'd had our jelly and ice cream or something or other, and then we just went like rampaging out onto the streets, and I was dressed up as a sort of an elf, and I had a like wooden sword and shield, and we were just like running up and down the road. So yeah, pretty sure that was more or less my first go at running a game. More memorable was my attempts at creating monsters, and I can, once again, I can see it in my mind's eye, this piece of lined A4 paper with a kind of sketch of a monster and a profile, and I was really excited about it at the time. I don't know whatever happened to that. Question 11. If you could live in a game setting, where would it be? Day 11's another tricky one. I've been pondering it for a while. Initially, I thought, oh, no thank you, I'll sit tight. And I think that's basically because most RPG settings that I've gotten involved with over the years are, well, super dangerous and super brutal. The fantasy settings that lack the creature comforts of modern day life. And then I got thinking a bit more. I thought, well, I wonder, what about some of these animated type of settings? And I got thinking a little bit more about television and TV series and things like that. Initially, I thought about something colourful, and I thought about the Lego movie. And I think mostly that's because I'm a bit of a Lego fan, and I just thought, yeah, it's kind of quite idyllic, everything's awesome. Then I started going off that idea for one reason or another, and I started thinking, what about some of these children's TV programs? I'm reading a book at the moment by the creator of Ivor the Engine and the Clangers and some of that type of stuff, and they are these rural idylls, mostly in a calm and quiet times. And along the lines of Mr. Ben, I think perhaps a little bit earlier on the children's TV timeline is Jamie and the Magic Torch. Now this is pretty gonzo. Jamie every night goes to, well, I don't know if it's every night, but he goes to bed and he's got a magic torch, and once his parents are asleep, he switches his torch, shines it on the floor, and it opens up a portal, and he goes to this weird world that he explores. I mean, that might be all right. And then if you're thinking about stuff aimed at kids, and the reason I do that is because it just seems generally safer. All that kid stuff is generally safer. I'm thinking books, and I always loved Wind in the Willows. I can imagine myself there with Ratty and Mole just rowing along the river. It's always kind of a hazy summer day. They never got any big issues. Well, I say never, most of the time. As long as Mr. Toad is behaving himself and the weasels are behaving themselves, you kind of haven't got too much of a problem on your hands. You just can float along the river, chatting with your buddies, afternoon naps. I don't know, do they ever go and watch a bit of cricket on the green or anything like that? I don't think they do. Yeah, Wind in the Willows would be pretty chill. Another kids' TV programme that popped into mind was Mr. Ben. I've talked about Mr. Ben before, but, that'd be alright, being Mr. Ben. Bowl down his road. I forget what the name of his road was now. Go visit the costume shop, swap into a costume in the changing room, and magically appear in another world. And then when it's all getting a little bit tricky, the shopkeeper appears and kind of drags you back. Quite like the idea of that one. But that leads me to a similar thought, and perhaps more of a bona fide RPG setting, and I think my selection is going to be the world of Doctor Who. I'd be quite happy. Well, I say that I'll be quite happy as Doctor Who's assistant, but it does leave me with the tricky question of what do I do about the missus and the kids and my family and people I know. And then you start going along those lines. So I'm guessing it would be an alternate me. If we're living in a different setting, I could make myself a bit younger again and perhaps go back to my teenage years, bump into Doctor Who and head off with him as an apprentice Time Lord and assistant. Or, well, I don't suppose you can be an apprentice Time Lord, but his assistant anyway, and explore time and space using the TARDIS. I'm going to go for that one. I was just doing a little bit more pondering there, and I wondered if I could tie this into ICRPG. And the obvious way to do that would be to consider some of the different settings that we have on offer there. So there's Alfheim, there's Ghost Mountain, which is the kind of Deadlands type of vibe. Warp Shell, which is sort of sci-fi, also sci-fi-ish. You have Xeno Dead Zone? Is it Xeno Dead Zone? Viking Death Squad. Bearcats, which is a kind of a Red Dawn vibe on a space colony. Then his latest book, Hard Suit, is set in a world where technology meets medieval type fantasy. I don't know if that's a great explanation, but the thing about Hard Suit is I don't want to say too much about it because it's quite secretive in terms of if you're going to run that with your players. There's some nice ideas around discovery, so I don't want to say too much about that and ruin that, as I'm potentially going to be running it. What else have we got? There's the Snow and Ice. That is, of course, blood and snow, not snow and ice or snow and rock or icicles in the winter. It's blood and snow. There's Vigilante City, and then there's also the post-apocalyptic one, Altered State, or Cyberpunk Altered State. It's quite a lot to play with there. The Ice Age one would be super tough, survival type of thing, but I don't know, something about that draws me to it a little bit. Warp Shell gets to be somewhat like the Doctor Who kind of idea. You could almost do it like the Doctor Who kind of idea, but in that one you're certainly jumping about all over the place. So I'm not gonna go for that one. It might be quite fun to be some kind of superhero guy. I could do Vigilante City maybe. Something's drawing me a little bit as well to the Altered State. I think it'd have to be, I don't know, I'm really torn. Maybe Vigilante City, trying to help out people, be a bit of a superheroic good guy, helping out. Yeah, I'm all about the helping out, folks. So yeah, let's go for that one. And I guess that ties in quite nicely with some of the messages. I've got a couple of call-ins from some buddies, been good enough to feedback on my episodes and kind of got some inspirational stuff and some questions. First up, we've got Anthony, aka the Runeslinger, and then following up we have Joe Richter of Hindsightless. So take it away, fellas.
Hello, Colin. It's Anthony calling from the deep, deep shadows of the deep, dark, rainy night as the rainy season of South Korea is gripping the nation in what's predicted to be a week-long torrent of rain. I guess this summer is unwilling to finish off with the rainy season with a whimper. It wants to go out with, a big gob of spittle, I guess. Anyway, it's absolutely fantastic to hear the story of Mrs. M. Just blows me away. Absolute fantastic example of what a teacher can be and what a teacher should be, and I hope that there are more like her in the future.
Yo, dude, here's a question that I was just thinking about because, I'm starting to get sort of settled down into my new life. And I'm hoping here in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so, next month at least, I'm hoping I'll be at a point where I can maybe start running another game or two and start running some different games again. And I was just wondering, now that you've been teaching for a while, starting to get a feel for how the workflow is going to be, what your schedule is going to look like, what your energy level, all that stuff. Where are you at, man? Are you getting back to where you're feeling like maybe you can start running games again, or not quite yet, or, whatever? And, maybe you've already talked about this. I don't know, man. Anyway, I was just thinking about you. Take it easy. Have a good one. And I will talk to you soon. Peace out.
So one of the great things about the community that's built up around RPGs and Anchor in particular is the fact that, you get to know people a little bit, and you get to know your fellow podcasters, the folks that you game with online, all that great stuff. Couple of real heartwarming messages from the guys there, looking in some ways, well, Joe especially, looking for a little bit of an update on my situation, and Anthony, he is showing some kind of understanding there about my situation with the teaching. To sum it up, and following on from my last segment as well, just trying to help out a little bit. I've always been quite inspired by Gandhi and the idea that you should be the change that you want to see in the world. Through COVID and everything, I heard a lot of moaning and complaining, and education and teachers, they get a lot of stick. I hear a lot of criticism, loads of people that have got theories on how everything could be done better, and I thought, well, if I want to try and change and improve things, help people out, especially in a bit more of a deprived area, I need to step up and be counted. Now, the rubber is really going to hit the road as we're counting down RPG a day. I get each day closer to the beginning of September. In fact, at the back end of August, I'm going to be back in school making preparations, and I'll be basically going solo as a fully qualified teacher. I'll have my own form. I'll be running my own lessons. I kind of haven't really got someone immediately handy to fall back on, so it's crunch time. I've got 2 groups that I've got to get through their exams. So previously I haven't had too much responsibility on that front. I guess what I'm saying is, although I've been doing the teaching, I have not really had to shoulder much in the way of responsibility. I've just had to look after myself and kind of try and convince people that I'm capable. Now it's judgment time, and when I think about it, I actually get kind of nauseous. If I'm honest, I do feel quite sick about the whole thing. But I get that all the time. I'm kind of used to feeling sick about things, and I know once I get started, and people that know me know this to be the case, once I get started, I'll be fine. That's what I keep telling myself. And we'll see how it goes. As for schedule, in answer to Joe's question, my schedule, I don't really know, because we're on a summer break. It's the summer holidays. I think it's going to hit me pretty hard initially, then it will settle down. I'm guessing come the first half term, so sometime October, I should be starting to get a better idea. In terms of running games, I'm already thinking I'd like to, once I've got a bit of time off, I'd like to run some ICRPG. So I've pitched that to my group, and as part of ICRPG a day, I think on Sunday I will make that an official pitch and take it from there. I'm toying with the idea of running hard suit, but I might just play an adventure that I picked up in Mouldy Codex. So that's going to be my next DMing project, as it were. I keep working on my ideas, I keep reading, researching. I'm doing this podcasting, so I'm finding time for that stuff. Online gaming, is looking not realistic still at the moment. So yeah, that's pretty much the update. I don't want to bang on forever, but it would be super good if I could be anywhere near as good a teacher as Mrs. M. I mentioned in the previous episode, she is an inspiration and almost a cautionary tale in some ways as well, I guess. Oh yeah, and on a slightly lighter note, I could use some of that rain that you've got over there, Anthony. We're having a real dry spell here. It has not rained for weeks. Bit of a water shortage situation. The garden's looking very sorry for itself, and it sounds like you've got plenty of rain to share a bit about. Also, I talked about Vigilante City, and you can listen on Cerebrivore. You've got Jason Connolly, you've got Joe Richter, who just called in, and Eric Salzwiedel from the Omega 3D Chicken Coop. He and the guys, they've got together and they were making up Vigilante Cities, ICRPG, Vigilante City characters on a recent episode of Cerebrivore. So if you're interested, check that out as well. And there you go, that is a wrap. A big thanks goes out to the pit crew, the generous folks supporting my endeavours over on Spike Pit Patreon, and a big thanks goes out to you, the listener, for taking a bit of time out of your day to listen to old Spike Pit. Take care, and I'll catch you later.